Hello everybody, my name is Jiami Yan. I'm from Group 11. I'm very happy to be here. There are 4 members in my group besides me. They are Qingyan Qian, Chen Yang, Zhen Yan, and Jia Weixu. Today, our presentation will focus on leadership style and ethical dilemma of Ben Van Beurden, who is a leader in Shell Corporation. Firstly, I will describe the background of Shell and the leader's leadership style in this presentation. And then, Qingyan will describe which ethical dilemmas that the leader faces. Next, Chen Yang and Zhen Yan will introduce how leader managed ethical dilemmas and their impact on the organization. Finally, Jia Wei will give some suggestions based on the dilemma that faced by leader. Before I start to talk about the leadership style, I will introduce the background of Shell Corporation and Ben Van Beurden. Shell is an international energy and chemical corporation. It's also one of the largest oil companies in the world, and it was founded by Marcus Samuel in 1970. Its headquarters is located in Hague, that is a city in Netherlands, and it owns about 80,000 employees. Ben Van Beurden is Chief Executive Officer of Shell Corporation. He was born in Netherlands in 1958, and in 2014, he became CEO in Shell Corporation. Well, leadership style consists of the behavior pattern of an individual who attempts to influence others. It includes directive behavior and supportive behavior. There are 4 styles of the leadership. The style 1 is called directing style. It's a high directive, low supportive style. The style 2 is called coaching style. It's a high directive, high supportive style. The style 3 is called supporting style. It's a low directive, high supportive style. The style 4 is called delegating style. It's a low directive, low supportive style. Firstly, as for Ben Van Beurden's directive behaviors, he is a visionary leader. In the teamwork, he could set goals and give directions for the team. For example, he understands the carbon emissions are bad for the climate, and he had set a goal of reducing the company's net carbon imprint by 50% in 2050. So, he leads team to work with organizations with the same goal and make sure he could achieve the goal. Next, as for his supportive behaviors, he can find shortcomings in the teamwork and clarify these problems. And then, he will try his best to solve the problems together with his team members and give clear strategies to overcome the challenges. Meanwhile, he could listen to employee suggestions patiently. What's more, his democratic technique is used in every activities in the company, so he has high supportive behaviors. According to analyze his directive behaviors and supportive behaviors, his leadership style belongs to style 2. That is high directive, high supportive style. It's also called coaching style. In this style, Ben Van Beurden should not only pay attention to the goal's achievement, but also focus on followers' social-emotional needs. Okay, these are the information that I want to share. Now, I will give the time to Qingyan. She will introduce what ethical dilemmas that Ben Van Beurden faces. Thank you.
Thanks for Jiami's analysis. My name is Qingyan. Now I'm about to show you the next section. An ethical dilemma is mainly a conflict across available alternatives where irrespective of what an individual or organization does. Some ethical principles will be compromised. Most leaders are faced with situations with conflicting moral standards and requirements. Will not override the other because the situation may be wrong. Leaders focus on analyzing all the available options and their consequences for better decision-making. In the current context, Ben Van Beurden has been faced with ethical dilemma as the CEO of Shell. These have forced the leader to make decisions that have influenced the company's image and reputation in the business environment. Some of the biggest ethical dilemmas facing Ben are corporate bribery and ecological environment. These fall under the core values of conflict of interest and environmental regulations. Shell has been facing one of the biggest corruption and bribery scandals in the history of companies operating in the oil sector. For example, evidence has showed that Shell participated in the bribery scheme, which robbed the Nigerian people around $1.1 million. For some years, Shell had denied that it was involved in corruption and bribery. Emails evidence showed that the company and its top leader knew that money was being diverted to private individuals. The deal was devastating to Nigeria and its people. Currently, more than 5 million people are facing starvation as the result of corruption and bribery deal. It is clear that Nigeria did not benefit from the deal. The massive payment was paid to Dan Atat, who was convicted for money laundering and the former oil minister in the country. According to Hofeani, corruption and bribery hinder sustainable growth and development, as well as respect for human rights. In this case, the company failed to act with integrity and make ethical choices. This is an ethical dilemma that faces the current leader at Shell. Consequently, Van Borden faces the ethical dilemma of ecological environment. Recently, Shell shareholders approved the simplification of the archaic corporate structure, which was created after the merger between a British firm trading exotic seashells and a Netherlands oil company. This has created an ethical dilemma for Van Borden due to the increasing demands from shareholders and climate pressure. The new structure will facilitate faster payouts to shareholders, while at the same time boosting the shift towards renewable energy. The company has been facing criticism due to its slow pace of cutting carbon emissions. The management and leadership team at Shell has been resisting pressure from investors on breaking the organization into a new business that mainly focuses on renewable energy, another business segment for operating in the legacy fossil fuel segment. These tensions have created ethical challenges for decision makers at Shell. The leader has to balance between the interests of all stakeholders while upholding ethical principles. So this is all the ethical dilemma. So next section about how to manage the dilemma will be given by Yang Chen. Yang Chen, please.
Thanks for Chen's presentation. Let us look at my part. As we can notice from the graph, Shell's carbon emissions in 2020 are comparable to those of Oman, a sovereign country, in 2020, which is a quite severe problem. Concerning carbon emissions, Shell's CEO, Mr. Ben Van Beurden, has set out new emissions reduction targets in his 2021 Energy Transition Strategy report. Shell's latest target is to reduce its carbon footprint by 45% by 2035 and reach zero emissions by 2015. Since the Paris Climate Agreement, Shell has been responding to the call for increased research and investment in the clean energy sector and adopting new technologies to reduce the carbon emissions of oil refining. The 2018 plan includes many specific measures to achieve the target, for example, increasing the share of natural gas in oil and gas production, among others, to negotiate carbon emissions. In this case, Shell's CEO used the supporting leadership style. On corruption at Shell, Ben Van Beurden told the March 2021 conference that in the 10 years since the 2011 OPL 214 fire incident in Nigeria, the company had trapped its ABC team and created a dedicated internal screening team, as well as bringing in regional subject matter experts to tackle corruption. In addition to this, Ben Van Beurden has launched several new initiatives, from a dedicated ABC commit to a mandatory ethical leadership program for all senior managers, and a framework has been developed to help share employees make valuable-based moral judgments on significant business decisions. Ben Van Beurden says the company will also further strengthen its corporate transparency and anti-corruption principles to ensure that it complies with national laws and enhances public trust in the company. In this case, Shell's CEO used the coaching leadership style. Beyond this, the ethical dilemma that Shell's leaderships need to face is the reduced demand for oil worldwide brought about by COVID-19. Since the company's primary business is oil, the financial implications are enormous. In April 2020, Ben Van Beurden announced a demand cut, the first time since World War II, even though it would cause investor disconnect and financial security. But the CEO said that this was the only way to ensure that the company had sufficient cash flow to survive the cold winter. Not only that, but the CEO has also decided that the company will need to cut 9,000 jobs by the end of 2022 to cut costs by 2.5 billion US dollars. After all, the CEO has to put the company's profitability first and has no choice but to cut jobs to save the company. In this case, Shell's CEO used the coaching leadership style. Thank you for your patience in listening to my part. Welcome to Yanzhen.
Thanks to Chen Yang for the analysis. My name is Chen Yang. In the previous part, Chen Yang analyzed how leaders are responding to the ethical dilemmas faced by enterprise. Then, after solving the above-mentioned ethical dilemmas, according to the choice made by leaders, the impact on the enterprise is also different, both positive and negative. The figure below shows the impact of different choices. Next, I will analyze the impact of the choice leaders make. The first is positive impact. As Shell's plan to break up the company was not successfully implemented, the negative impact on the company's supply chain that the breakup might did not take place. Therefore, the company's revenue and the stock price have not been affected by the supply chain problems. In addition, Shell bought one of Nigeria's most promising oil rig, with production reserve of up to 9 billion barrels. The field called it 1/3 of Shell's global proven oil reserves. Due to the impact of COVID-19, Shell has decided to cut 7,000 to 9,000 jobs to help enterprise save costs, which are expected to be around $2 billion a year from 2022. The second is the negative impact. A report showing that Shell's emission could actually increase by 5% by 2030, coupled with Shell's early cash actions, has led many investors want to change from Shell, fearing the worsening climate change is hurting their profits, and they are losing patience with Shell. Among them, Dutch pension fund ABP announced plans to divest all of its shares in Shell, which was $15 billion. Meanwhile, some of Shell's competitors have announced plans to divest some of their renewable energy business to help them fund the transition to more low-carbon products, but Shell has not, which could have an impact on Shell's ability to compete in the market. And because Shell chose to withhold information in Nigeria's February case, they did not offer any unsolicited information. While the case was in, Shell are also at risk of losing the public's trust in them. The above is all my context. Next, Jiawei Xu will make recommendations on how to improve leadership and management standards in the face of similar ethical dilemmas in the future.
Okay, thanks for Yanzhen's invitation. My name is Jiawei Xu. I'm a member of Group 11. I'm responsible for making suggestions on how to improve leadership and management standards when similar difficulties arise in the future. Now let's go. Leadership dilemma refers to the situation in which various approaches result in different decisions, and the leaders has to choose one. At Shell plc, ethical leadership dilemma occurs, and leaders ought to select the best option to ensure that the organizations sustain the challenges it faces. In this presentation, I will focus on how Shell plc leaders can resolve ethical and moral dilemma. Besides, I will also focus on how the organization can apply these strategies to solve such a dilemma in the future. To solve ethical dilemma in leadership, Shell has to identify a dilemma. Notably, leaders have established a conflict of professional responsibilities, rights, and values. The organization has to identify vital ethical principles involved. Notably, the leaders at Shell plc will establish meaning and limitations attached to the regulations, after which leaders will have to rank the values in professional judgment. In such a case, leaders at Shell plc will identify which ones are relevant to the dilemma they face. The development of a plan is necessary for such a situation. In this case, leaders will have to employ appropriate skills and abilities. Lastly, leaders will have to focus on the solution they are providing at Shell plc. They will have to evaluate how it will affect the organization and its employees. In the future, if such a dilemma occurs in the organizations, leaders need to define and align their duties to the organization's values. Add that organizations need to hire workers who embrace the organization's core value to avoid conflicts. Notably, open communications are essential in any organization. Therefore, leaders must assume them. The organizations need to promote open communication to solve dilemmas. A most important factor is that leaders need to understand that there must be biasness during discharging their duties in an organization. In such a situation, leaders need to accommodate each worker's weakness and find a way to help them improve. That's all I have. This is the end of the presentation. Thanks for watching.